Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. Government has been talking about focusing on sectors that will create jobs and boost economic growth and development. President Cyril Ramaphosa attended the inaugural Black Industrialists and Exporters Conference in Johannesburg, where they talked about the importance of having a manufacturing sector in South Africa. But how can we have a viable manufacturing sector in South Africa when we do not know of the stronger focus on growing our tooling sector? For more on this, we're joined by Mr. Tapiwa, Samanga, the CEO of Production Technologies Association of South Africa. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you for your time. It's all very well to talk about growing the sector so that we can create jobs and have a viable economy, but what, in essence, does it take to reach those standards?
Good afternoon, Paul, and good afternoon to your viewers and listeners. I think what we need to do, which is what we are focusing on in the Production Technologies Association of South Africa, is to put in those fundamental things that you need to address so that we have got a sustainable manufacturing sector. And among others, one of the things that needs to happen is to make sure that we've got the critical skills that can sustain a manufacturing economy, which is what one of the things that we are focusing in the Production Technologies Association of South Africa. Primarily, we operate in a subsector that supports manufacturing, which is called the tool, die, and mold. You cannot have a sustainable manufacturing sector without a tooling sector. Ordinarily, we say we make things that make things. So you cannot make anything without us or without the companies that are our members.
So with this tooling sector, what sectors are we essentially looking at here?
The bulk of our customers is automotive. So if you drive a car that was made that is made in South Africa, your Toyota Hiluxes, your Ford Rangers, your BMW, the models that are made in South Africa, you're likely driving a car that has been touched in one way or another by our graduates, the people that we train, and our members. So we make those things. I mean, just the simplest example that I can give is your car, that bonnet in front. It was a flat piece of metal, and then we pressed it to take the shape that it has. So that thing that we use to press it, we call it a tool. So when you're talking about tool makers and tool making, we're actually talking about making those things that give shapes to things. So the bulk of our our clientele, of our sector that we serve, is the automotive sector, and then about 35% to 40% is your packaging. So your bottles, your carton of milk, everything in shaped plastic that you see around you was actually made by a mold or a tool. Mm-hmm. So for you to actually grow those sectors, you need the people that actually serve or that actually design things, do product design, make the things that shape those things, and that's how you create a sustainable manufacturing industry. The tragedy that we have in South Africa at the moment is that a lot of these things we used to do, but we lost them to the East. So we are trying to claw back whatever we can get back. There is significant progress, but there is need for everybody else to come on deck and make sure that we get back much more.
So how does this now become an attractive career for somebody who may be in matric and thinking about where to from 2023 in terms of studies and acquiring the skill set? How does one maneuver?
Thank you. I think this is a good time to have this conversation because a lot of our kids now are writing matric and they're wondering what happens next. And I hope we're not too late, especially for those that have dropped mathematics. We are one of the few training providers in South Africa for tool making. We've got 4 training facilities in Pretoria, in Cape Town, in Tapiwa, and in Pietermaritzburg, in KZN. We take students that have passed matric maths and science. And then we take them through a 4-year training program. And then when they are done, they come out as toolmaker artisans. But within those 4 years, there are actually other sub qualifications that you get. So if at any time you actually get out of the program, you don't go out empty-handed, you actually go out with something. So when you then become a toolmaker, you then go and join either the top tier, the OEMs, your Ford, some of our graduates, they're working directly in your Ford, in Nissan, in BMW, in Mercedes-Benz, or you go into the tier 1, tier 2, the suppliers that actually supply those OEMs. So far, we've been training since 2010. 95% of our graduates, when they finish, they're already employed. They get a job. But one thing that I need to highlight is that this type of qualification is not a qualification that was really well known. Over the years, more than 90%, I can make an estimate of around 95% of the students that are coming to our training centers. And we now mirror the demographics of South Africa, which means the greater part of our students are actually from historically disadvantaged individuals. About more than 95% of them, when they come in, they don't know what tooling is and what a tool is. They imagine that we're talking about your slashers, your garden hose, your garden rake. Mm-hmm. And part of it is because this is something that has never really been shared or never really been something that we talk about around the dinner table in our homes, in Mamelodi, in Soweto, and those places. But we are getting now the students coming through. They are really a mirror of who we are as a nation. What I'm also glad to report is that when we started in 2010, about 30% of our intake was female. Now we are hitting 50%, which again mirrors the demographics of the country.
Yeah. So when it comes to the entrepreneurial venture, how does this now fall into the picture as a toolmaker, qualified, and looking to start your own business?
Right. One thing that I need to underpin is, of course, I was telling you that we have lost a lot of capacity over the years. Yes. But there are few companies that we have in the country which are global. I mean, which are global players. And this is what you call assembly systems. These are things that put things together. Like I've talked about your car. So you sort out the parts of your car, but then you have to put them together for that to be a car. So we've got a few companies in the country that are actually world class in putting things together. When I look at all those companies, I think we've got five or six which I could determine, which I could rate as world class. When I look at those companies, the people who own and run them are tool makers. So part of what the challenge we've had with empowerment is that we were trying to get transformed companies using people who are not from the same sector. So we are getting your lawyers, your accountants, your CAs to go in and buy interest or equity in companies for which they had no technical expertise. So the way we are doing it now is, and we have got a transformation challenge in the sector, and it's historical, and we acknowledge that. But the way we are doing it now is our students, when they come through our training courses, part of what we deal with is actually the entrepreneurial aspect. How do you start your own business? Because they are the business people that we expect to be running their own businesses in 10 years, in 20 years. Uh-huh. So when I look them in, when they come in, like with the intake in July, we've got another intake coming in March, I'm actually seeing the boardrooms of 20 years from now. God willing, I will still be around.
Yeah.
So we believe that on the technical side, the best way to actually ensure that you've got sustainable transformation is to make sure that we empower the people that actually are going to run those enterprises. And that's part of what we're doing now.
Mm. And with tool making essentially being a game changer for countries like China, how much of an impact will it have here in South Africa as the career stream becomes more attractive and more young people show an interest in tool making? What does it mean in numbers for South Africa's economy?
if you, I think China is a very recent and clear case study of what one should do if you want to create a sustainable manufacturing economy. I've got people that I work with that were responsible for setting up the first assembly plant for vehicles in China in the early 90s. And it was made in PE. So we have seen China transform its economy from a sort of rural, agro-based, with a bit of steel manufacturing economy into the manufacturing economy that it is now. And at the base of that was tooling. Initially, what China actually wanted was to grow a tooling sector that would service its own internal demands. Because when you look at this population, we're talking about a population that matches the whole of Africa. So they established a system where they could manufacture tools from the rest of the world in China. So what we then did as the rest of the world is we gave China our ideas. They then made our products for their own internal consumption, and they also sold them to us. And because we gave them the ideas, they were able to sell them to us at a cheaper price. But the basis of what made China what it is now, it was tooling. So if we need to claw back our manufacturing sector, it means we need to ensure that career paths like tooling, there are others. I mean, your millwrights, your mechatronics, your fitting and turning, your boiler making, metal fabrication. We need to make sure that all these critical skill sets are developed in the country. Because when we have got a toolmaker essentially does not look for a job. If he can't find a job, he creates a job. And there's something that we call multipliers. Like if you create one toolmaker, you create 27 jobs in the economy. It's one of the career paths with a very high multiplier. So what we need then to do as South Africa is to go back and see. And our advantage is that we still have young people who are keen to do this. In other places around the world, especially in your Western world, the young people are not keen to do this. Number one. And number two, their pyramid, their population pyramids are upside down. They've got more older people than young people. And in Africa, we've got a very high youth dividend. And if you can skill that dividend in just doing something to use their hands and their minds and their brains, then we are there.
Yep.
And what's also attractive now about career paths like tooling, it's no longer about muscles and brawn like in the old days. There's a lot of programming that goes in. There's a lot of ICT stuff that goes in, which is why it is actually becoming now even more attractive to ladies. So you can come in with your nails, hammer off, and you are there. So we need to create that environment. We need to create the awareness in our young population that it is possible to actually take a career path in manufacturing. Whether you go to university or whether you go to a place like us where we are actually training these critical skills, then these people attract projects. I was in one of our automotive companies like 10 years ago, and you could see on their floor that a lot of the people who were working there were actually people from outside. I was there again a couple of months ago, and these people make they make some brands that are on our streets. I can't mention them because I have no permission to say so. And I was in that factory again, and they're expanding. It's a major investment that is actually coming in. And I was on their floor 2-3 months ago. You now see a significant number of South Africans on the floor.
Yeah.
Part of them are people we've trained. Part of them are some that our partners have trained. But what I also found was that the managerial team, way back 10 years ago, the managerial team running the project was Australian. This time, we've got South Africans, some of who had left the country, who have actually come back to run the plants. And it was quite a warm thing that we feel that, you know what, we're making a contribution here.
Thank you so much for your time. Tapiwa Samanga, we're going to have to leave it there for now, the CEO of PTSA. Thank you for your time. Speaking about the importance of having a manufacturing sector and one of the components being tool making, which is which can be an attractive career to drive the economy and create jobs.